What's up, everybody? This your man Dre Mac. About to go live with another taping of the episode. Another taping of the Dre Mac podcast show. So sit back. This episode is called Ask Dre Mac, and I'm about to ask some of your questions from Facebook earlier. So sit back, chill out, and let's get this thing cracking.
Now, without further ado, here is your host, Dre Mac.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on, everybody? This is your man Dre Mac with another episode of the Dre Mac podcast show. Coming to you on Tuesday, November 17th, 2020. Shout out to everybody who's watching right now live on Facebook, who's watching live on YouTube right now. Shout out to everybody on there. What's going on, Vanessa? She said, I'm proud of you, my friend, and all that you do. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. So, shout out to everybody who's listening live on Speaker Radio also, because I'm live on Speaker Radio. So if you want to catch the podcast, all you have to do is Google me. Simply as that. Google me. Google the Dre Mac podcast show. You could be able to find it anywhere that you listen to podcasts at. Also, you can listen to it on YouTube. Also, you can watch the actual video version that I'm taping right now, and you can listen to the audio version on YouTube too. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to this. Today, I posed a question on my personal Facebook page. I just asked, what did you guys want to talk about as far as the podcast today? So, I'm going to read some of the things that you guys asked me to discuss, and we're just going to go kind of from there. So, today, when I post this question, first person that reached out to me was my friend Renika. Renika Williams said, men getting birth control, a vasectomy with question marks. And I asked her, okay, what do you want me? Oh, okay, what do you want to know? Why? Explain for me so I can understand. So she said, well, I'm pro-choice and abortion isn't a choice for women and birth control pills is the only choice for a woman, although some of them counteract with our bodies. But what about men? Shouldn't they have to bear responsibilities with a contraceptive? So I do understand the mere fact that you're asking, should men be on birth control or a form of birth control? I could see it. I could see it happening. They're not. And I'm gonna just be honest, they're not, just because of the way that America is set up. They don't want. That's not something America. First of all, you got to understand this. There is old white men telling women what to do. That's in high places. So first thing you need to do, let's get this out of the way. There is old white men telling women what they need to do with their body. So if you think that they're going to sit up and allow men to get birth control, it ain't gonna happen. Now, what I say that most men need to start making sure that they have using condoms and the contraceptives that are out there today, yes. A vasectomy is going to, they're not going to be able to have kids. So I mean, me personally, I got a vasectomy, and it's the best thing I ever did. But that's after, fathering five children. I'm done. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I have teenagers. I don't want any more little kids, and I'm in this 40 range. So for me, it was a no brainer because I was done with children. So a man getting a vasectomy and he doesn't have any kids. Matter of fact, your doctor, just like when a woman goes and gets her tubes tied, that doctor is going to say, I don't know about this one. Do you really want to think about it? And if you want to do it, you could do it, but he's going to highly recommend you not to do it. So I would like more of a form of birth control for men, because then you could be able to feel some of the things that women feel. And I honestly feel like, men shouldn't be walking around here just, first of all, don't walk around here sticking your dingaling and just anything unprotectedly. That's the first thing. You need to be able to be protected. It's not just because of kids. We still forget that there's STDs that's out here. We forget like AIDS is just ain't nothing now. You know what I mean? Like that's, I know they have advancement in technology and all that other stuff, but AIDS is still prevalent. HIV is still prevalent. There's other STDs. So I feel like men should be able to wrap themselves up. And I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the day when rap music was cool, remember they used to actually talk about being strapped up with a rubber? Remember when that was actually something to be proud of, that you strapped up and actually had a contraceptive on you? Now you got people just talking about eating booty on the record. It just no regards for anything. You know what I mean? So that's my answer to that. I appreciate that question, because that question is something that elaborates to other things. So I really truly appreciate that question. All right. So the second question came from a good friend of mine, Kiana Smith. Hopefully she's watching. Shout out to her. She said depression and anxiety. And I asked her, what exactly would you like for me to touch on when we're talking about depression and anxiety? And I want you to really listen to what she's saying, because anybody who's ever dealt with depression really, 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 really understands this. She says it's real. Folks are really going through. Only the strong can only survive for so long. You're not the weakest link because you go through it. You have seen and dealt with things folks could not imagine. Black people need to educate themselves on this, um, especially just, so she's just saying black people just need to educate themselves more on depression and anxiety. And it's really not, and she also says it's not a black and white thing, but I understand where she's coming from, because again, we're going into the holiday season, right? So during the holiday season is the biggest time where you start talking about depression, anxiety, and things that's going on, um especially when it comes to the holidays. um I mean, just look at this COVID situation is making people depressed anyway, because they're stuck in the house. And it looks like a lot of places going to be locked down again. And I just did the podcast on my last podcast on domestic violence. And it's funny. You know what? You know what's really funny? And I'm not trying to be facetious or anything like that. I'm just speak the honest to God's truth. When you start talking about things like rape that goes on, you start talking about things like domestic violence. I literally had less than 100 people even watch that actual podcast, and I'm only just giving information, right? But I have a daughter, and the age range from 18 to 24 is most likely to be abused in their lifetime. they're going to go through depression and anxiety, the things that Kiana's actually talking about. But less than 100 people actually watched the video podcast, and a lot of people didn't download that one. What's going on, Yvonne? What's going on? Oh, that's my homie, Pokey. But listen to this real quick. When you're giving out information that actually can help you and benefit you and get you into a state of mind where you can be able to understand just a little bit more about what's going on in society, you don't have a lot of people who would like to just share that. This is things that we go through and things that we need to be able to understand. What's going on, Steven? But if I was to post a train wreck, and you know what a train wreck is, when I got folks arguing and we're talking about, drama that's going around, especially celebrity drama. I could easily talk about how Boosie was shot in Texas after he attended the rapper Mo's funeral. I can easily talk about that and get all kinds of interaction within that. I can talk about my nerdy stuff. You see, I got Transformers and stuff in the background, and they just got the producer, the director from Creed 2 to be a part of the new Transformer movie. You know what they're trying to do. Easily can have multiple engagements with that and people sharing it and try to get my thoughts on that. But when I'm talking about something serious, when it comes to like domestic violence and it comes to depression and anxiety and making sure that your mental health is right, a lot of people don't want to like you share that, but they want to share the train wreck that comes from that. Let's think about that for a second. I talked about someone being exposed on Facebook, and when I talk about people, when train wrecks happen, we love to share that information. It goes through social media so quickly. Somebody get exposed. Ooh, let me go ahead and let me talk about that. Let me share. Let me inbox you the videos. Let me inbox you all the depressionary train wreck that is of this situation. But when I start talking about getting yourself looked at and finding a counselor and saying my mental health is worth me saving. Now, you can't be thinking in your mind that you're okay when you're really not. Because you're going to go through signs and times in that depression and anxiety. Because I believe anxiety is worse than, I think both of them is, let me not say worse, but anxiety is a big thing too. And mental health you need to have someone to talk to. Steven said, I love my therapist. And Black culture needs therapy. And it's funny, it's because we look at everything that goes on in our society, and people are like, I don't want to be preached at about this stuff. But hey, you don't want to talk about, now, you don't say Black Lives Matter. Don't utter that out of your mouth. And then don't talk about mental health, because that's a Black life that matters, because eventually he takes a gun and shoots himself. Then what? I have lost friends to suicide. I've looked to commit suicide myself because I was depressed and my anxiety was at an all-time high. And I went to the church, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they told me to pray about it. This particular church said, just pray about it. Just go in there and start talking to the Lord and get into your quiet spot. But I needed to talk to someone because every sign was pointing to me going to go talk to somebody. That's the thing that we need. See, we need to be able to understand that, yes, prayer works. But prayer also gives you the opportunity to open the door to go somewhere else so you could be able to relinquish some of the things to a professional. That's why when she's talking about depression and anxiety, because we feel like we have no one to talk to. We've already been told how we're supposed to act and what we're supposed to do in this society and how we're supposed to walk and how we're supposed to talk it, how we're supposed to move it. We just, as a Black man, I feel like a robot. I'm supposed to act a certain way and do a certain way. I'm not supposed to act like this. I'm not supposed to act like that. So when I talk to someone about my situation, then what? I need healing. And prayer with no works is not working. That's absolutely the God's honest truth. They say faith without works is dead. What is work? You got to go out and do something. You have to go and do something. Let me reiterate. You have to go out and do something. When you're going through, if you do not reach out to someone, how can we help? But then when you reach out, we need to be able to point you into the right direction. Without a shadow of a doubt, I'm always tell someone to go seek counseling. There's nothing wrong with it. I went through 5 months of counseling. I learned more about myself through 5 months of counseling than I did in 40 years of life. Think about that. 5 months of counseling, I learned more about myself because I got to the root of the problems that I was facing. Nobody wants to face your problem. A lot of people don't want to say, I have issues with women because of my mother, or I have issues with men because of my father. I'm going to tell you this. Because of the way that I was raised and some of the things that I experienced in my life, I did not allow a black man to be able, an older black man, to come up and really put his arms around me to mentor me. Because I was afraid. Because I went through the system. And a lot of people I talked to, I went to school with, they were like, you did what? Yeah, I was a system kid. So I was bounced around from home to home. It's just my life. And I had to understand that it was a part of my story and be comfortable with this portion of my life and being comfortable with that story. Nobody wants to talk about this story because when you start talking, you start moving and you start understanding. And your mind, once you unlock the understanding, your mind cannot go back to what you previously did not know. It's humanly impossible. That's why the woke movement was so prevalent, because you start to be awakened to things that you haven't experienced. It's a higher form of evolution because now you're starting to understand the root problems that you go through. So when I started to understand the root problems that I was going through and started to really understand, man, I went through some stuff. I went through some stuff. I had to write it down. I had to write down what I went through. Do you know how powerful that was? Dude, tears. While I'm writing, I had to write my life in no sugarcoat, no lying, no none of this. The real 100% facts about my life. And I had to write it down so I could be able to present it to my therapist. And I'm talking about tears is flowing because once you read it back to yourself, your life, man, you realize, man, I went through, but it's okay. It's okay that you went through. So when we start talking about black people and we're starting talking about white people, black, white, it don't matter. We all go through depression. We all go through a form of anxiety where we don't feel comfortable. And if we never have a conversation and we never reach out to someone so we can get the root of our problems, we never are going to flourish. That again is your mind expanding to be comfortable with everything that you go through and being okay. It's okay. It's not okay if what someone done to you, but to understand it and to say, yes, I went through this, or the mistakes that you made. Me, I was real big on the mistakes that I made in life, and how can I say this? I'm one of those people who want to be a perfectionist, and I want to do everything right as I possibly can. But I know that that's humanly impossible to just be perfect on everything. It's humanly impossible. So I had to understand it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay. I went out, wanted to be an actor, moved to LA. I didn't get where I wanted to be, but that's okay. At least I tried. Nobody's because society what others think about you. Think about that. We have determined our success what others deem is successful to us. Not the try, just what they think is successful. So if I wanted to go to Hollywood, if I wasn't in TV, I wasn't successful. If I wasn't in a commercial, I wasn't successful. What about the try? What about the audacity that I had to face my fears, to move from one city, to move from KCK, to move to California, only knowing small portions of my family that was out there and trying to make something better for myself? What about that? That's successful because you're now stepping across a threshold that you wasn't comfortable with. Now you're at a point where you're comfortable. You're at a point where I could do this. Now I'm comfortable in doing something that's different, doing something out of the norm, doing something that may have caused me anxiety, but I was willing to do it. That's the way I look at it. And a lot of people may not see it that way. A lot of people may not see it that way. But when you really, really, really take a look at it, and it says, and Yvonne said, it's okay to fail as long as you continue to push to find out what you can do. See, all the things that I did in my life led me to this point. Me doing acting. I don't write any scripts down when I'm doing my podcast. I don't write anything. When I did comedy, I didn't write my jokes. I knew the premise. I knew if I knew what a premise and a punchline was, as long as that's in my mind, I knew exactly what I could do because I did improv for so long in high school. I went to state. All of that stuff, doing improv, being on the fly, being funny in 3 minutes. That's what you have to do when you got on stage. You have to be funny in 3 minutes or you get booed or quieted off stage. And I'd rather get booed than everybody be silent during a joke. So I had to learn how to be quick-witted, quick-minded, be able to move. That same aspect you can take to everyday life. Being able to be quicker in your thinking and understanding. That's when you feel depression coming on. I feel it coming on. Now I know what I need to do. And most people are afraid, but you cannot be afraid because we need you. See, that's the thing in life. We need you here. We don't need you taking no one's life. We don't need you taking your own life. We're here to help you. And if you could be able to get the help that you need, people are right here for you. And we need to make sure that people know that we're right here for them so they could be able to succeed. And Stephen said, effort is more important. Without it, you'll never try. And that's the honest to God's truth. All right, got a couple more questions. And my man Reginald Fenoy, who is in Hollywood right now, doing his thing. His question was Pornhub. That was his question. Pornhub. So I don't know. I didn't even say nothing because I gave him the look. But Renika put facts because it's barely any BBWs on the site. Okay. Moving right along. Why hip hop has an age limit and no other genre does? That's because I'm gonna answer that question. That's because we put the age limit on things. We think, first of all, hip hop started with the breakbeat in New York, and we rapped over the breakbeat to have fun. Then it evolved into storytelling when you start looking at people like you start looking at Run DMC, you start looking at Beastie Boys, you start looking at EPMD, Rock, you know what I'm saying, Rakim, you start looking at Big Daddy Kane, LL Cool J, Too Short started going West Coast, NWA, Ice T, uh, Schoolie D, all these particular type of cats. And a lot of these cats were way older. See, the thing is like they try to make it a stigma like it's a young people thing, but if you the way hip hop um initially started, it was all older cats. It's, that were showing younger cats because they were DJs and they were in the clubs, doing break beats and stuff like that, and people would rap over the break beat. You know what I mean? So again, these are older cats. It's us. That's all it is. It's us. When Will, okay, so the song Will, can't think of the cat's name that did the Will song, offhand. But then when they turned around and redid it with Will Smith, everybody's like, "Ooh, dang! I didn't know Will could come like that." Well, if you listen to Will Smith over the years, Will could come out with an album right now, rapping the way he rapped, and it'll go platinum. And Will is well into his 50s. But Will was established. They feel like you have to be young to be established. As long as you got good music, it don't matter. Joyner. That's his name. Joyner. Yeah. Thank you, Jody. Let me put it up here. Yeah. Thank you, Jody. So, Joyner Lucas. So, it's really not. It's what you. I feel like if you put good music on, no matter how old you are, honestly, it doesn't matter how old you are. As long as you make good music, that's all that matters to me. And I feel like only us, we put this down, and then we start. And this is to the older, my age limit, and a little above. We be like, man, this new rap it sucks. But if I come out with an album, oh man, you too old to be rapping. Man, quit complaining. And then you be like, man, I sure do miss the 90s. Remember when the mid-2000s when rap is hot? That's us. We do that to each other. And honestly, that's all I got to say about that. All right, last question on the Ask Dre Mac was why Hot 103 Jams don't play all their local artists' music. Well, you already know why. Just let's be real. When is the last time that 103 played a local artist not named Tech Nine, not named Rich the Factor on a main portion of their radio station? And I don't need to dwell. They're not the radio station to get your music on. Even if you make, and Jody, I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say this. You can have a central song, but Underground Heat. That and Raquel just said that. I was gonna say they played on Underground Heat, but they're never gonna play the top 20, the top 25 R&B and hip hop during the normal music out, which sucks, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You can do Underground Heat, Brian B. Shining and all of that, but unless you come down there with some change, you can get that song on. We all know. But now I'm gonna tell you this, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say before I let you guys go. If you're doing music, there's so many other outlets to be able to get your music played. It's not just 103. I'm gonna give you this. Roger Suggs, shout out to him, and check out truthtoreasons.com on 8 p.m. tonight. He got the docuseries that he got going on, but for 2 years, he was doing the Not 88. And he was putting together some of the hottest songs from local artists around the city. What happened? Local artists didn't support what the platform that he was trying to create. See, we always talk about this. And tell me if I'm lying on this. We always talk about, well, I'm tired of going to the table. We need to build our own. But when we do build our own, nobody wants to bring any type of dishes. You want to bring something to the table, but you don't want to pay. You don't want to sit down. You don't even want to tell everybody that somebody's eating. No, you don't want to do it. So the thing is that you can't complain about something when somebody has something for you to be able to get it on, and you never utilize it. You never talk about it because it's not 103. That's in name. You create the name. You create the format. You create the buzz. Nothing in America works without black buzz. Trust and believe that. Nothing in America works without black buzz. Why do you think they start putting 20 inches on cars now? And shiny rims? Because black people were buying it, black and brown people were buying it and putting it on their cars, and they start realizing, oh, well, white people like this too. So they started doing it. But it started with black and brown people, just like with music. Music, rock and roll was started by a black woman. Who do you think of when you start thinking about rock and roll music now? Think of a white man. You're not thinking about the black woman who created rock and roll. You're not thinking about the Little Richards or the Chuck Berrys of the world. When you start talking about classic rock and roll, this is your thing. You created, but if we continue to hate and not support the things that we create, then what? That's your fault. That is your fault. I can be able to, I created this format so I could be able to do interviews with people who cannot get on regular news stations or radio stations. I created this format to talk about the things that I can't get on 103 and talk about. I created my own thing. But if you don't support that, you don't support a format where you could be able to be free and talk about whatever you want to talk about and be able to get free interviews and all that, that's your fault. Because the format is there, you don't utilize it, and that's really all I got to really say about that. So please don't talk about, well, we need to build our own table when you won't go and tell everybody this man is feeding right now. Won't you go and eat? Simple as possible. That's the gospel. This is your man, Dre Mac. You already know what it is. Make sure you guys check out the Dre Mac podcast show on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. All you got to do is type in the Dre Mac show. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to actually start making more content on my YouTube channel outside of the actual podcast. So please, 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 please stay tuned because I've been thinking about this idea, start doing top 10s. So I'm going to start doing top 10s on things I like. Top 10 Knight Rider episodes. Top 10 Transformers that I like. Top 10 whatever. So I'm going to start going into diving into a little bit more extra stuff on my podcast. I mean, outside of the podcast, maybe you start doing some of these show reviews since The Mandalorian and WandaVision and stuff like that is coming out. Because I want to do extra stuff. And since I got the format, I might as well do it. But make sure you guys are checking out the YouTube channel. Make sure you guys are checking me out on any of the platforms. You go listen to podcasts. It's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Spotify. Again, wherever you get your podcasts at. This is your man, Dre Mac. I'm out. Peace and shalom to everyone.